If you've ever bought a cheap projector screen that promised movie night magic only to end up with a washed-out picture and a bunch of glare, you know the kind of buyer's remorse that sticks with you. The disappointment isn't just about the picture, it's the extra time you spend wrestling with a flimsy pull-down, the frustration of a screen that never sits perfectly flat, and the feeling that you could have saved yourself a lot of hassle with a smarter purchase. That's the exact scenario I was trying to avoid when I started looking at retractable screens for my ultra-short-throw laser projector. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I spent a good few evenings watching YouTube reviews, reading forum threads, and scrolling through the best screen for UST projector lists. The consensus was clear: you need a screen that's truly ambient light rejecting, because even the best lasers lose contrast when the room isn't dark. At the same time, the market is flooded with cheap fabric rolls that sag, rip, or require a ceiling that can handle a heavy mount. The VIVIDSTORM SPRO 72-inch electric floor screen promised a ceiling-mounted, motorized solution with an ambient light-rejecting (ALR) surface, and it's been around since 2004 with ISO 9001 certification. Those credentials made it stand out, but I still had a few doubts. First, I wanted to know who this screen is actually for. If you're a casual streamer who only watches Netflix on a laptop, you probably don't need a motorized ALR screen. On the other hand, if you've invested in a 4K ultra-short focus laser projector and you plan to host movie nights, gaming sessions, or even occasional presentations from a living room that can't be completely dark, the VIVIDSTORM screen starts to look like a practical upgrade. It also makes sense for a home office where you want a clean ceiling look when the screen isn't in use. The screen retracts into the ceiling, freeing up floor space and keeping the room tidy. Setting it up was easier than I expected for a ceiling-mounted unit. The package includes a mounting bracket, a power cord, and a quick start guide that walks you through attaching the bracket to a standard 24 ceiling joist. I didn't need a professional installer; a drill, a screwdriver, and a level were enough. Once the bracket was secured, I hung the screen housing, plugged in the cord, and used the included remote to lower the screen. The motor runs smoothly, taking about 10 seconds to go from fully retracted to full height. There's no loud whining, which is a subtle but appreciated detail when you're lowering the screen during a quiet movie scene. The 72-inch diagonal size is a sweet spot for my 100-inch diagonal projection area. Because the screen is designed specifically for ultra-short-throw (UST) lasers, the gain is optimized for the short throw distance, which means the picture fills the screen without any hotspotting. The ALR coating does what it claims. In a room with moderate ambient light from a couple of floor lamps, the black stayed noticeably deeper than on a standard white screen. I ran a side-by-side comparison with a budget white fabric roll, and the difference in contrast was enough that I could keep the lights on while still seeing detail in darker scenes. That's a practical win for families who don't want to dim the entire house every time a film starts. Eye protection is another feature the manufacturer highlights. The screen material is designed to reduce flicker and glare, which can help if you're watching for hours. In my experience, the screen's surface didn't produce the harsh reflections you sometimes get from glossy screens, and the matte finish kept the viewing angle fairly wide. I could sit a few seats to the side without noticing a major drop in brightness. For gamers, especially those playing fast-paced shooters, the lack of glare and consistent picture uniformity can reduce eye strain during marathon sessions. Now for the trade-offs. The biggest downside I found is the price point. While it's not as expensive as high-end cinema-grade motorized screens, it sits firmly in the mid-range, which might be a stretch for someone on a tight budget. Also, the screen's motorized mechanism is built for reliability, but it does add a moving part that could eventually need service. The 2-year manufacturer warranty gives some peace of mind, but it's something to keep in mind if you're planning to keep the setup for many years. Another practical consideration is ceiling clearance. The screen housing sits about 23 inches above the ceiling line when fully retracted. If you have a low-slope ceiling or decorative plasterwork, you'll need to ensure there's enough space, otherwise the housing will be visible even when the screen is up, which can break the clean look you're aiming for. I measured my ceiling height before ordering, and everything fit nicely, but it's an easy detail to overlook. In terms of daily usability, the remote works reliably, but I also added a small wall-mounted button for quick access when the remote battery died, a simple fix that many users seem to do. The screen's fabric is easy to clean.